If you want to get a bidet toilet, you can save hundreds of dollars by buying one from Amazon and installing it yourself. In this video, I'm going to show you what the tricky parts of the installation are and how to overcome them so that you can start using a bidet toilet sooner rather than later if you've ever thought about getting one. In order to get the old toilet out, first close the valve that supplies water to the toilet tank by turning it clockwise, and then flush the toilet so that most of the water in the tank gets drained. You can see that there's quite a bit of water that's left in the tank. I'm using a small wet vac to pull out the remaining water from the tank. And I'm going to pour the water that I collected into the toilet bowl, which will actually help drain out the water that's sitting in the toilet bowl as well. I'm putting the cover back on the wet vac so I can now vacuum out the little bit of water that's left in the toilet bowl. To pull the toilet off, I have to detach it from the water line by unscrewing it counterclockwise and detach the toilet from the floor by taking the nuts off the bolts that are underneath these two white caps. I'm showing you how to do that on just this side. I'll do the same on the other side. It just won't be filmed. Just a couple of turns with the wrench loosen the nut so I can just unscrew it by hand by turning it counterclockwise, and then take off the white plastic washer and the grimy metal washer underneath it. Now, I also took the tank off so that I can use this toilet jack to remove the toilet. But you don't have to take the tank off if you can lift the entire toilet, which is over 75 pounds for one like this. That's a large, elongated toilet. The toilet bowl alone is about 55 pounds for this model, which is still too heavy for me to try to lift. Since I forgot to film myself taking the tank off, I'll show you how it's done on this drawing. You'll find two bolts inside the tank that attach the tank to the bowl. You have to take off this nut at the bottom to pull the bolt out, and the nut is located underneath in the back of the toilet bowl. Now that the toilet's off, I'm going to remove and scrape off the old wax ring and wipe the flange clean. I'm going to reuse these bolts, but remove and discard these washers because they're not flat and aren't going to work very well with the brackets that I need to install for my new bidet toilet. To install my bidet toilet, I need to connect this water line from the bidet toilet to the shutoff valve. You can see here that this water line requires a 1/2 inch outlet, but the standard shutoff valve in the US has a 3/8 inch outlet for connecting the water line. Some bidet toilets that are manufactured by Chinese companies and sold on Amazon get returned by the customers because of this mismatch. The maker of this bidet toilet, Bazyths, provided a new valve that would work for their toilet and a 3/8 inch female to 1/2 inch male adapter that you can use instead if you wanted to keep your existing valve instead of installing a new one. So I'm taking off the old water line and now installing the adapter. That was a cinch. Now I need to install a new wax ring over the drain hole, but I'm going to install this rubber toilet seal instead. The reason is that I'm pretty sure I'm going to need to make little adjustments when trying to place a toilet above the drain hole. And if you keep lifting up the toilet and setting it down, that could end up smushing the wax ring and compromise its ability to make a good seal. I figure that's not going to be an issue with this rubber toilet seal. I also like the fact that this comes with a spacer, which I really needed since my flange is below floor level. This rubber seal cost only around $8, which is just $3 more than the cost of a thick wax ring. So I'm just using the plastic washers from this kit to help keep the bolts standing up. First, I put down the spacer and then the toilet seal on top of it. Now comes the key step that is critical if you can't lift heavy things and are trying to install this really heavy bidet toilet by yourself. Bidet toilets like this are well over 100 pounds. I laid the toilet on its side so you're seeing the bottom of it. I'm going to make a template where I mark the position of this drain hole in the center and the two holes next to it. The L-shaped brackets that are going to hold the bidet toilet in place over the drain will be sitting in these holes. By the way, there is a foot sensor that allows you to lift the seat cover and the toilet seat just by tapping your foot against the toilet. I'm using a clear piece of plastic to make the template. I just cut off a large rectangular piece from a clear shower curtain that I bought from a Dollar Tree. I'm marking the outline of the toilet base and the position of the holes. You can't see what I'm doing now, but I'm just cutting out the template along the outline of the toilet base. I'm putting the template down, making sure that the center circle I drew is on top of the drain opening. I also cut out holes in the template for the bolts to come through. I'll be using this template to mark on the bathroom floor the boundaries for the toilet so that when I put the toilet down within those boundaries, I can be assured that the toilet is sitting on top of the drain. These are the L-shaped brackets that I kept referring to. You're supposed to be able to slip them down easily through the bolts, but instead of the thinner bolts that came with the brackets, I kept my old bolts on, and they're a little too fat for the slits in the brackets. So I'm getting the brackets to go down by sort of screwing them down the bolt. Next, you're supposed to put in the metal spacers and nuts that came with the brackets, but I'm skipping the spacers and just putting in these fat nuts that were on my old thick bolts. Also, it's important to adjust the placement of the brackets so that they fit inside the circles that represent the location of the side openings on the bottom of the toilet. The fact that these holes are so much bigger than the tiny holes for the bolts in a regular toilet means that you can get away with not being so precise when putting down the toilet. Now, I'm marking the boundaries for the toilet on the bathroom floor using masking tape. I'm done and can remove the template now. So now you are seeing the toilet installation in action. Even though I have a hard time lifting anything over 50 pounds, I can manage to lift up just one end of this super heavy bidet toilet and can drag it into place with a little help. I don't know if you can see it, but I slid a furniture slider disc under the front end of the toilet because without it, I still had a hard time getting the toilet to move. And the short distance that I did manage to move it without the furniture slider resulted in scratches to my floor tile. I removed the furniture slider and as predicted, I'm having to make slight adjustments to the toilet placement. I'm so glad there isn't a real wax ring getting smushed underneath. You can't see it, but this screw is going into the L-shaped bracket to help keep the toilet in place. I'll be putting in a screw on the other side the same way, although I won't be showing it. What I need to do next is connect this water line to this shutoff valve. I can tighten this nut over the threaded outlet by hand most of the way. and then do the last few turns using a wrench to tighten it really well. After turning the water on, I see that water is leaking, and it's at this top nut that's connected to the white plastic T-valve from above. Well, I fixed the leak by just tightening this top nut clockwise. That was easy to do with the help of this yellow plastic cap that I found already attached to the water line. You just fit it over the nut, which essentially makes it like a wing nut, so that you can tighten it really well by hand. I can't turn it anymore because I already did, but just so you know, this helps you tighten well without worrying about over tightening and breaking the white plastic part. And I'm turning the water back on. And see, no leak. No leak at all. I forgot to film this part, but I caulked around the base of the toilet with silicone. I've been using this bidet every day for about a week now, and it's been working well. So far, so good. The brand that I bought is Bazyths, and it looks and functions like a Moen that costs 2 to 3 times more. I think it's a good value purchase because it has all the features that are available on high-end bidet toilets.